Hello, I'm Dr. Luna. I'll be your instructor for GPH904 GIS for Research and Analysis. I thought I'd take the opportunity to introduce myself and let you know that the course is still running, although we haven't had an opportunity to meet. So what I'd like to do is to get us started on the work that we're going to do for this semester with things that don't require any sophisticated software at this point, and things that we can get out of the way without actually meeting, and hopefully that'll get us caught up at least a little bit. So I'm going to do this in two parts. Here I'm going to talk about the objectives and goals for the semester again, although you hopefully read about them at this point. And I'm going to talk about how the course will be structured and how the assessments will work. And then I'm going to do a second video to talk about how Canvas works, which is the learning management system. Hopefully, again, you've logged in, you've looked at it. I'm going to talk to you about how we can use that to organize ourselves into the groups that we'll need to do the work as well as to communicate more effectively. So as you've already seen, hopefully on the front page of Canvas, there are a couple of goals that we're after for this semester. And both of them are really right in line with what we want to do for this kind of course. So the course is essentially an opportunity to hone your research skills through the tool of GIS. And so we're going to be working with an outside organization to look at environmental justice analysis for the state of Massachusetts. And so we've identified two goals that we're after for this project. The first is to assist the Massachusetts Environmental Justice Alliance to make recommendations to the state on how to revise the definition of what constitutes an environmental justice population. And so the state already has criteria that were in place and used in order to notify communities when certain projects went forward, so that they had extra notification. And the point of that was to give communities more of an opportunity to participate in the processes that result in different kinds of projects or developments around the state. However, there's always been an open question about quality or the appropriateness of those particular criteria. So we want to explore the possibility of using other criteria that might be more appropriate. But in order to make those determinations, we first need to look at what those criteria would look like geographically. And so what this goal is about essentially is to look at how these different potential environmental justice population criteria would look like. I mean, which communities would be included in them, and what would it mean to use a particular population criterion or threshold to identify communities that are vulnerable and it would be qualify for extra attention and notification for different kinds of projects around the state. We'll get more detail on that later when we have an opportunity to hear from Stacy Rubin from Alternatives for Community Environment. And you also have literature too, so again, that should clarify some of what we're talking about. The second goal that we're working on this semester is to better understand the pattern of environmental burdens in Massachusetts. And this is an interesting one because this is a kind of GIS analysis that's been done repeatedly by a lot of different researchers, and it's fairly complicated, but we're going to approach it in, I think, a more accessible way. And so ideally what we're going to do is do a rough first pass to see where different kinds of environmental burdens, which we have yet to define, are concentrated across the state. And what we're kind of interested in is to what extent those environmental burdens relate to where the vulnerable populations are. But initially we're going to keep these two goals separate, and we're going to have two groups working on each project goal separately. So how is the course going to be organized? How is this project going to be organized? Well, we're going to organize into groups. There will be two groups, one for each goal. And each group is going to be essentially responsible for organizing itself to figure out what tasks need to be completed and when, although I will be giving significant guidance on what needs to happen and what deliverables need to be created and presented. So initially what's going to happen is that you're going to meet with your group members initially virtually and hopefully in person to decide on roles and tasks for every member of the group, so everybody's going to have an opportunity to participate. You'll be producing products as a group, and that will mean that individuals will have different roles and tasks. At the same time, there has to be a system of quality control so that you're checking each other's work to make sure that simple mistakes aren't getting through, or that you thought carefully about what it is that you're doing. So I leave that up to the groups to decide how you want to do that. However, every group, or each group rather, is going to maintain a weekly group log and task list that is for both the group's benefit, but also for me to see who's doing what and when it's been completed. So it's kind of a system of accountability, and also just to let everybody know what's going on. And so again, I leave that to you, leave that to the group and how to organize that, but I'm hoping that'll be posted somewhere visible to both the group and to me, and I'll talk more about how you might go about doing that. And lastly, there will be periodic oral presentations before we get to the final project, where each group will talk about and present the deliverables that it's created up to that point. And so I'll specify what the deliverables are, but I leave it to the group to decide how to get there. Okay, so those are the group projects. In addition to that, every member of each group will have an opportunity to perform periodic peer reviews. Usually those will take place right after the group presentations, and those peer reviews will give every individual an opportunity to assess everybody else's performance in the group, as well as to assess their own performance, so you can reflect on that. And everybody will get feedback from that regularly, so that you'll know how you are being assessed by the rest of the group, so it won't be a mystery to you. And you'll have an opportunity to comment on that and talk with me about it as well. And I'll use those group peer reviews as a way of keeping check on what's going on, as well as assessing your own individual performance along with the group. So you'll be getting group grades, but those grades will be modified by your individual performance, which I'll be assessing through the peer reviews, as well as my own observations and interactions with you as we go through the semester. So what are we doing next? Okay, so I thought the first thing that would be really useful is to have everybody participate in an icebreaker discussion in Canvas. And so I've set one up, and it has a deadline, and you will get participation credit for participating. And it's a very simple thing. It's just an opportunity for us to start talking to one another and get to know each other, because again, we won't meet for quite a while, at least 2 weeks. So in the meantime, we need to get going. Secondly, you need to visit your group's homepage. So these are already set up in Canvas, and in the next video I'll show you how to access them and how to use them. But one thing that I want to say here, and I'll say again later, is that I want you to communicate through Canvas with your group and with each other individually, because this is how I can see what's going on. So it's really important that you get comfortable with Canvas and you set it up so that that's your primary form of communication online, and then when you're in class, well, then you're in class. Each group homepage has a summary of the specific project goals and deliverables for your group, and it's in a section called Pages, and again I'll show that to you, but essentially it's a more detailed breakdown of what your group is going to need to do and when things are due. Lastly, and again, your group needs to organize itself, and you need to decide as a group on what the tasks and roles are going to be, and you need to set up a work log and task list that will be posted in Canvas and visible to everyone in the group as well as to me, and that needs to be done by next Monday, February 16th. So you've got plenty of time to do that, but you do want to start talking to each other sooner rather than later. All right, I'll see you in the next video.